Hello and welcome. In today's video, we are diving into the extraordinary life of Charlie Chaplin, a man whose story of perseverance, creativity, and unwavering determination has inspired generations. As we retrace his journey from hardship to greatness, you'll uncover valuable lessons that still resonate today. His work is timeless, his comedy universal, and his life is a powerful example of perseverance, creativity, and determination. Even now, decades later, he lives on in our hearts. His movies still bring joy, his struggles still inspire, and his story proves that no matter how difficult life gets, you should never stop trying. This isn't just a story, it's a journey, one filled with pain, rejection, poverty, success, and immortality. Whether you're a fan of classic cinema or just love hearing stories of resilience, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Charlie Chaplin was born in London, England, on April 16, 1889. His parents, Hannah and Charles Chaplin Sr., were both performers in music and theatre. They entertained audiences and made their living on stage. But life had different plans for young Charlie. His father was an alcoholic who eventually abandoned the family, leaving Charlie's mother, Hannah, alone to care for two children, Charlie and his older half-brother, Sidney. Life for them was extremely hard. They were very poor, often without enough food. Sometimes Charlie went to bed hungry, and Hannah would pretend to eat so her children could have a little more. They moved from one tiny, dirty room to another, constantly afraid they would be thrown out. Despite this, Charlie found ways to smile. His mother, Hannah, was a talented singer and actress, performing in theaters to earn whatever she could. Charlie loved watching her. He would sit backstage, mesmerized, dreaming of one day performing in front of an audience. But fate was cruel. One night, Hannah lost her voice during a theater performance. She tried to sing, but she couldn't. The audience booed her and threw things on stage. Then, something incredible happened. 5-year-old Charlie walked onto the stage, picked up the microphone, and began to sing and dance. The crowd erupted with laughter and cheers. That was the first time Charlie performed for an audience, and from that moment, he knew this was his destiny. Life, however, didn't get easier. Years of poverty and hardship took a toll on his mother. She lost her mind and was sent to a mental hospital, leaving Charlie and his brother on their own. They had no family, no money, and no place to live. They became street children, wandering the streets of London, begging and fighting to survive. Imagine a small boy, cold and hungry, searching through trash cans for food. No matter how difficult his early life was, Charlie Chaplin never gave up. Even as a small, hungry boy walking the streets of London, he held on to his dream. Charlie and his brother Sidney lived through terrible conditions. They ended up in workhouses, harsh places, where poor people worked in exchange for food and shelter. At just 7 years old, Charlie found himself in a cold, cruel world filled with suffering. Separated from his brother, he was sent to another workhouse, alone. When he finally returned to his mother, she was very ill. Her mind had deteriorated so much that she sometimes didn't even recognize him. Charlie could only watch, helpless, as doctors took her away to a mental hospital. He was left truly alone, but even in his pain, Charlie held on to his dream. Charlie wanted to perform, to stand on stage like his mother once had. He wanted to make people laugh, to bring joy to a world that had been so harsh to him. However, as a poor, homeless boy, he had no clear path. His only option was to work hard and fight for his dream. As a child, he took small jobs, washing dishes, delivering newspapers, and making toys. but his heart remained set on performing. One day, he saw street performers entertaining a crowd. Something clicked inside him. This is my chance, he thought. He joined them, performing on the streets by dancing, singing, and doing small comedy acts. At first, people ignored him. They walked by without a second glance. But Charlie didn't stop. He kept performing, kept improving. He watched and studied other comedians, their movements, their timing, their expressions. Slowly, people began to notice. They started stopping to watch. They began laughing. For the first time, Charlie felt the magic of making people happy. At just 14 years old, Charlie got his first real break. A theatre group called the 8 Lancashire Lads hired him. It wasn't much, he was just part of the ensemble, but it was a start. He worked harder than anyone, learning every move and every trick, practicing constantly. His talent began to shine. One day, a theatre director took notice and said, "This boy is special." Charlie started getting bigger roles, more responsibilities. At the age of 16, he landed a major acting role in a play called Sherlock Holmes. Charlie was no longer just a street performer. He was performing in real theaters, in front of large audiences. People loved him. Directors admired his expressions, his movements, and his ability to make people feel something even without words. Then, a life-changing opportunity came along. In 1910, Charlie was invited to America to join Fred Karno's company, a famous comedy troupe. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. America was where dreams came true. Charlie packed his bags, boarded a ship, and crossed the ocean toward his future. Everything in America felt larger and more exciting. The streets, the people, and the energy. Most importantly, Hollywood was there. Charlie knew he had found the place where he could become a star. In 1913, Keystone Studios noticed Charlie's talent and offered him a small role in a silent film. It wasn't much, but Charlie saw potential. He wanted to create something unforgettable. He came up with a character, a small man in oversized clothes, a tight coat, a funny hat, a tiny mustache, and an iconic walk. At first, audiences didn't understand the character. But when Charlie performed, when he moved, when he made them laugh without saying a single word, people fell in love. His films quickly grew in popularity. Producers begged him for more. Studios offered him huge sums of money. Charlie Chaplin, the boy who once wandered the streets, hungry and alone, was on his way to becoming one of the most beloved figures in cinema history. In just a few years, Charlie Chaplin went from being a hungry boy on the streets of London to the biggest star in the world. By 1917, Charlie wasn't just famous, he was a global phenomenon. People stood in long lines to see his movies. His face was everywhere, on posters, in newspapers, in magazines. He was loved in every country, in every language, in every culture. Yet behind all the laughter and success, Charlie was still the same boy who had once cried for his mother. Still, the boy who had never given up. Now that he had made it, Charlie wanted more. He didn't just want to act. He wanted to control everything. He wanted to decide on the stories, the direction, the music, and the emotions in his films. At that time, actors were controlled by the big movie studios. The studios decided what roles they played, how they acted, and even what movies they could make. But Charlie refused to be controlled. "No one will tell me what to do," he declared. "I'll make my own movies, my way." So in 1918, he did something that shocked everyone. He built his own studio, Chaplin Studios. Now, Charlie was his own boss. He could create anything he wanted, and no one could stop him. This was a major turning point. In 1921, he released The Kid. This wasn't just another comedy. It was deeply personal. It told the story of a poor man and an orphaned boy, capturing the pain, love, and struggle that Charlie himself had lived. It was funny, but it was also incredibly emotional. The world fell in love with the movie. For Charlie, it proved that films could be more than entertainment. They could change people's lives. As his fame and power grew, Charlie became the richest and most influential actor of his time. While other actors were earning $10 a week, Charlie was making $1 million per movie. But he never forgot where he came from. He still remembered going to bed hungry, and he never stopped working hard. He spent months, even years, perfecting his films. Every scene, every movement, every detail had to be just right. Charlie wasn't just making movies, he was making history. In the late 1920s, Hollywood underwent a huge transformation. Talkies had arrived, movies with sound. Everyone told Charlie to move on from silent films. Silent films are finished, they said. But Charlie didn't believe that. He thought emotions were more powerful than words. In 1931, when most people had written off silent movies, Charlie released City Lights. It was one of the most beautiful and emotional films ever made. The final scene, where his character meets a blind girl, is still considered one of the greatest moments in cinema. City Lights showed that movies didn't need words to touch people's hearts. By the late 1930s, the world was changing again. Adolf Hitler had risen to power, spreading fear and hate. Charlie noticed that Hitler had the same mustache as his famous character, and people started comparing them. In response, Charlie made a bold decision. He would use his comedy to stand up to Hitler. In 1940, he created The Great Dictator. It was his first film with sound, but it wasn't just a comedy. It carried a powerful message. In the film's final scene, Charlie delivers a speech that still resonates today. He spoke about kindness, humanity, and fighting for a better world. The speech became legendary. Millions still watch it today, and it proved that Charlie wasn't just a comedian. He was a voice for the people. But not everyone appreciated Charlie's independence and political messages. Some in Hollywood turned against him. Lies were spread, accusations were made, and in 1952, Charlie was forced to leave America. Heartbroken, he moved to Switzerland, where he lived a quiet life with his family. For 2 decades, Charlie stayed out of the public eye, but the world never forgot him. In 1972, Hollywood realized its mistake. They invited him back to America and honored him at the Oscars. When Charlie stepped onto the stage, the entire audience stood and applauded. It was the longest standing ovation in Oscars history. 12 minutes of applause. Even after all he had been through, Charlie had won. His life taught a powerful lesson. No matter how hard life gets, no matter how many obstacles are in your way, never give up on your dreams. Charlie Chaplin started with nothing, and against all odds, became one of the most loved and legendary figures in history. Charlie Chaplin went from being a homeless boy with nothing to the most beloved figure in the world. But behind the fame, laughter, and success, his personal life was filled with struggles. People betrayed him, governments turned against him, and even after his death, something shocking occurred. Charlie's love life was especially complicated. Although he was a genius, he fell in love too easily, and many of his relationships ended in pain and drama. He married 4 times, and his first 3 marriages all failed. Each time the woman left him, took his money, and sometimes even dragged him to court. People began saying that Charlie could make the whole world happy, but he couldn't find happiness in love. Then, in 1943, at the age of 54, Charlie met Una O'Neill, an 18-year-old who changed his life. Despite their age difference, Charlie didn't care. For the first time, he had found true love. Una became his best friend, his confidant, and his most loyal supporter. She stood by him when the world turned against him. They stayed together until the very end, and for the first time, Charlie had a real family. Together, they had 8 children, and Charlie finally experienced true happiness. Charlie spent the final 25 years of his life in a peaceful, beautiful home in Switzerland. There, he enjoyed a quiet life, surrounded by his family. He wrote, read, played with his children, and often walked in his garden reflecting on his past. Sometimes he watched his old films and laughed. Although far from Hollywood, he was never forgotten. People all over the world still adored him. On Christmas Day, December 25, 1977, Charlie Chaplin passed away peacefully in his sleep at the age of 88. The world went silent as people mourned the man who had brought so much joy to so many. Every country paid tribute to him, and newspapers declared, "The world has lost its greatest comedian." But then, just 3 months after his death, something unbelievable happened. A group of thieves broke into his grave, dug up his coffin, and stole Charlie's body. The thieves demanded $600,000 from his family, but Una refused. She famously remarked that Charlie would have found the situation laughable. For weeks, the world was in shock, wondering where Charlie's body had gone. After a thorough police investigation, the thieves were caught. They were 2 impoverished men from Eastern Europe who had stolen Charlie's remains in a desperate bid for money. The body was eventually returned to his family. This time, they buried him in a stronger, cement-covered grave so no one could ever steal him again. Although Charlie Chaplin passed away in 1977, his legacy remains alive. Every time we laugh at a clever scene or watch a brilliant film, his spirit is there. He taught the world that life isn't just about money, success, or power. It's about love, laughter, and never giving up. Even when Charlie had nothing, he never lost hope. Even when the world turned against him, he never stopped fighting. Charlie Chaplin is more than just a name. He is an emotion, the greatest comedian in history, and a timeless inspiration. His lessons, movies, and indomitable spirit will continue to inspire people for generations to come. If you admire this incredible story, share it with others so Charlie's message will never be forgotten. And always remember his famous words, "A day without laughter is a day wasted." What did you think of Charlie Chaplin's story? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you'll never miss a video that inspires, motivates, and teaches valuable lessons. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.